two STEM experts who are great role models for women in STEM. First up is Coach Robin Burr, who will be leading the cotton ball launcher activity. Coach Robin has been teaching for 29 years and is a math specialist for Berea School District. She's been a STEM coach with NMSI for 15 years. She's a mom of twins and has been married for 31 years. She's been recognized for her work with at-risk students by President Obama. And she's used those 3M activities with her students. And Robin, I understand that they love them.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to see some pictures of the kids and how they change it. So how I used it was that I modeled how to make one, and then they made one. I let them be inventive about it. And basically the materials are pretty simple. You can find it at your house. So I worked with virtual kids who are virtual at home. And then also I worked with the kids in my class. So you just take a tube, any kind of tube that you have, and then you're going to punch 2 holes in it. We did it with a pencil and twisted it. This is a broken popsicle stick. Then you'll cut the flaps and you put the rubber band in there. So it's pretty easy. I mean, I could do it really quick right here. So if I cut the flaps, and what I say with my kids about STEM is this: STEM teaches everyone more about failure, and failure leads to more success. So we have that across the room, and failure is something that should be celebrated because it's an opportunity to learn something more. So if you don't make it like I do, make it your own way, which would probably be better. And I have some pictures of my kids. They made giant, so he won his innovative engineer glasses. So you get a pair of glasses. He came up with a new way of doing it. So he got his glasses. And the other picture that I have, you see the giant tubes? The kids made those. So they wanted to make their launcher bigger. And we fired cotton balls. We fired, let me show you the coolest thing that we came up with. Everybody has these at the house, right? So what you could do is to add a little bit more weight to your launcher is put something in there. Is that not awesome? And then you just tape it up. And that's what they used in the giant launchers. So this is the way it works. You pull it back like this, and it's great. It works really good. But the more weight you add, the farther it's going to go. And with the tubes, you use these. I was so excited when the kids came up with this. We were able to collect these in the teacher's lounge and say, hey, we need those. And it was very quickly we got it. And also, paper towel holders in restaurants, you could collect them there. Toilet paper, we all have that. But you could do this with a pencil, and it's pretty awesome too how you can do it. You could tighten up your rubber bands to make it go farther. The good thing about this is, so with the virtual kids, what I did is I made a little kit. Here's some rubber bands. You'll need some tape. You'll need, you could use a popsicle stick or a pencil. And what I have right here is the cotton ball launcher. Now, on YouTube, there are videos how to do it. And also on the 3M on the website for family and home science, there's an 18-minute video that shows you step by step. But just like she was talking about earlier, innovations. Now, listen, here's the thing. Everybody steals a little bit from great engineers, great scientists get ideas from somebody, just a little bit, and then you make it your own. So look at this. Is this not the coolest thing ever? Now, put some weight in this, tape it up, and make sure you have adults with you, of course. But make your tube bigger. And here's another idea. You know how everybody has Amazon boxes? We use those too. So you can roll the boxes and make it bigger. You can use this. You can use erasers. And one of my girls made this. This is from an Amazon box. And you can see they made it stands up. I thought that was pretty cool. And it says distance of the projectile. And she graphed it, which was really cool. The orange ones are the ones with the little launcher, and then she made a bigger launcher. She extended the tube and tightened the rubber bands, and it went farther. If you're talking about the science standards, in K through 3, it's more about non-standard measurements. You can use Unifix cubes and just count the Unifix cubes, or blocks, or you can do line up matchbox cars and determine how many there are. And then the next one in first grade, it's an inch. You measure everything by inches. And then in second grade, it goes to the 1.5 inches. And a huge thing is in 5th grade, measuring is huge. You go all the way to the 16th, and it brings in fractions. This is a phenomenal activity. So here's how it went in my class. We did this first. Then they made other ones. Then we made a catapult. Then we compared all these. And so this little bitty activity became a month-long unit. And so I want to leave you with this. I know, right? Isn't it cool? And kids came up with this. I know. Remember this. STEM, STEM. STEM teaches everyone more about failures, which leads to more success. I'm Robin Burr, and I just want to say thank you. I'm a coach at NMSI. If I can support you in any way, I'll be glad to help you. And thank you for allowing me just to share a little bit about my kids and what we do.
Thank you so much, Coach Robin. And it's so good to know that I have a way to use all those Amazon boxes that have those K-cups as well. Appreciate it.
Isn't that cool? I didn't come up with that. Someone the kids did.
Of course, the best ideas come from the kids. So next, we're going to have a botany experiment on dissecting flowers led by Coach Jennifer Babcock. Coach Jennifer is a STEM educator who's been teaching students from pre-K to adulthood for over a decade. She is a Jill of all trades in her work, and she uses her creativity to train and coach future teachers to be effective leaders for their students. She received a Bachelor of Arts in Music Performance, a Bachelor of Science in Childhood Education, and a Master of Science in Creativity and Change Leadership, all from Buffalo State College. Coach Jennifer, with spring in the air, the flower experiment is really timely.
I know. I'm here in Buffalo, New York, and we still had like snow the past couple days. So I'm really hoping this inspires the more springy, warmer weather.
Very good. Well, take it away.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Robin had all the actual pieces, and I put it all in a nice little thing for us all to see. So we're going to be doing this dissecting flowers experiment. And with it being spring, if you have flowers nearby, you can grab some of them. If you don't have flowers, that's okay. I have fake ones at home that I can use. I love that Robin was talking about using materials that she found around the house, and you can do the same thing. Find things around your house and you can make your own flower and then take it apart, like use a cotton ball for the top, make like tin foil, petals or leaves. So it's okay if you do not have flowers at home, that you can still make them. We can also draw them. But this is a really, really great one by 3M that I'm very excited about. So some of the materials, if you have the flowers, it's really great to have magnifying glass. If you don't, find some readers that are lying around. You can use the magnifying app on your phone. If you have scissors, make sure that you have an adult nearby, kids, if you're doing it with me. You can have some water. That way you can keep the pieces once you dissect them, that they can still stay healthy and nice and bright and green. You can have 6 paper plates that you can put your different pieces when we start the dissection. If you do this outside on a nice day, maybe when it's a little earlier and the sun is out, maybe use chalk and do it in your driveway or on the sidewalk, and you can just label leaves and stem right outside, and then you don't have to worry about the mess and the cleanup later. So the paper plates kind of are optional. If you want to have tape or paper or markers to get fancy, that's also optional as well. When we're looking for the different plants, we want to make sure that we have different pieces, that the plants all have different kinds of parts. Specifically, we want to see these kind of fuzzy ones that stick up, because those really help plants with reproduction, so making new plants. So try to find, when you do this, maybe later in the week, try to find different plants that have these different kinds of parts. But if you're like me and you don't have a plant, let's draw one together. in the chat, please do not make fun of my drawing skills. I'm going to do the best I can with the few colors that Jamboard gives me. But let's all draw a plant together. So I'm going to start with my stem. That's my easiest kind of part to start with. I'm going to make it a little thicker. And I know that some of our stems sometimes have thorns on it. So I'm going to add a couple of those. Again, please don't make fun of my drawing. I might put some of my leaves on here. I'm going to do nice big leaves. Again, I really, really want it to be spring. So I'm really getting excited. So I'm putting nice big leaves that can really get all of that sunlight and can really work for their photosynthesis and making food. All right, I'm going to switch my color. We have a stem. We have some leaves. Now I'm going to draw my roots that go deep into the soil, get all of those nutrients, bring up the water for our plants, bring up the nutrients from the soil. And this is all stuff that Gitanjali was talking about, and making sure we had clean water, not just for us for drinking, but our plants need it too if they're going to survive, as well as other animals in the ecosystem. So all of these things are so connected and so important. So it's so amazing that she's doing these great innovations. All right, and let's go ahead and put a nice big flower. And I'm going to put all that fuzzy stuff that sticks to our clothes, that pollen. And then I'm going to draw some nice petals on my flower. I wish I could see the pictures that you are all drawing. So if you don't have flowers with you, the flower that you drew, you can take your scissors and you can dissect it with me as we go forward. So I hope that you all have really beautiful flowers. Okay. All right. So as we move on, whatever flower you have, you're going to want to take your tweezers when you have this, and you're going to want to pluck the different kind of parts. You're going to want to take time to really observe these different pieces. And you're going to take the stem and dissect it and move it over. You're going to take the petals off, dissect them and move them over. Again, if you had your paper plates, you would put them on those paper plates. If you're outside in your driveway or in the parking lot or the sidewalk, that's where you're going to write your chalk. And then you can put your piles of whatever you dissected. We can take the stamen and the pistils. We're going to dissect those and put them over there. And then once we dissect it, we want to make sure that we're really investigating them and looking at all of these pieces and noticing the different parts of it. This is really fun if you got different flowers, because we can look at how they look different or how they look the same. Do all plants have the same stem? Do all plants have the same leaves or petals or any of these different parts? They all have a different purpose, and they all look a little different for different reasons. So we're going to want to take our time, use a magnifying glass, get really up close to observe it. And again, if you don't have a magnifying glass, you can use the magnifying app on your phone or on a tablet. You can also use your parents' readers, their glasses, and you can hold them up and make sure that you can still see and get a closer look if you need it. I think this is also another great opportunity to you can do a math build, and after you dissect the pieces, you can always measure them. Robin was talking about how the younger students will measure using non-standard measurements like, paper clips or pencils or fingers, things like that. But you can also put in metric and standard units as well and kind of measure them, because it is really important to have that cross alignment of all these different skills. When we go out into the world to solve problems, we don't think, oh, this problem needs my math brain, so let me put on my math hat and solve it. Or we don't say, oh, this one needs my science brain, let me put that hat on and solve this problem. We just use everything we've learned and we put it all together without thinking about it. So the same kind of thing, any of these activities, these are not just science activities. These are all learning activities, and they are all fun activities that you can do. Okay, if you drew your picture just like this, you can take your magnifying glass and you can look at your beautiful pictures that you drew. You can take your scissors and you're going to cut your pieces and dissect it the same way that we did if we had our real flower. I know it sometimes can be hard to cut up something that we spent time on, like art or drawing, but it's also kind of fun because it helps us to learn. And then if anything, you can always tape it back together and put your flower back together. If you have any questions or ideas as we go through, please feel free to put them in the chat now, and we're going to keep going through some more. So once I organize, I put my leaves in my leaf pile, my petals, my stems, my roots. Again, I'm going to want to look at them and see how they're a little bit different. My leaves are really big and wide, but my stem is really skinny. I wonder why that happens. So why would our leaves need to be so big and our stems be so skinny? Well, our plants get sunlight from their leaves. So they have to be bigger so they can get all of that sun. I know when I go tanning, I like to spread out to really make sure that I get an even tan all over the place. And it's kind of like our leaves. They're not doing it for tanning, but that's how they get their sunlight and they make their food so that they can keep growing. And their stems are there for structure. So they don't need to be super big because it's just what holds them up. So once you dissect it, the cool part about it is looking at it and thinking of, why is it like this? Why do they look like this? Why do the petals have beautiful colors on them? Well, they need to attract the bees and the insects that help pollinate them so that they can keep growing and make new flowers every spring. So there's so many big questions that you can ask and answer by doing this type of dissection. And this doesn't only have to be with plants or with flowers. Anything you find outside in nature, you can kind of take apart and dissect. Just be careful if you have any allergies. Make sure you wash your hands and be mindful of where you're finding these items. You don't want to go in somebody's garden and take their flowers. They might get mad. But there's so much around us to explore and to look at and to get these kind of ideas that really breaking down big problems into, how we can solve them and into solutions is a dissection too. So this really just kind of promotes that big thinking and that big kind of learning. If you have multiple different flowers that you were dissecting, look and see how they're the same and different. I noticed that all of these leaves are green, but they're different shapes. They're a little bit different colors. Some of my stems have thorns on them. Some of them have the leaves. Some of them are thick. Some of them are thin. So kind of looking and kind of comparing, just like people, we're all a little different. We have similarities and differences. Same thing with things in nature. Same thing with our plants. So this would be a really good conversation for that. Gitanjali talked about empathy. You can use this to kind of talk about social emotional learning and being socially aware of other people, being self-aware. And you can kind of use the parts of the plants to kind of foster that conversation with your kids, or kids if you have to do it with your parents, because parents also need those kind of talks too. For anybody who struggles to eat their vegetables, each vegetable is a different piece of a plant. I bet you didn't know that. There are leaves like cabbage and spinach and kale, and all that green stuff that you take off your plate when you're eating dinner. Those are all leaves of a plant. We have our fruits, which protect the seeds. We have our root system, and that's why we see some vegetables that grow underground and we don't see them above ground until we pick them. So if you don't have plants or flowers at home, you can use your vegetables. This would be the one time your parents are probably going to be okay with you playing with your food, but you got to eat the vegetables later. That's the deal. And you can say that Miss Jen said that it was okay to play with it, but you're going to eat them. So if you don't have any of those pieces, I'm going to make my own flour using vegetables. So I'm going to use this cauliflower. It has flour right in the word. And I'm going to use that for my flour. I'm going to use some yummy asparagus, one of my favorite vegetables. I'm going to use that as my stem and put that together. Let's do some carrots as my roots that are going to hang down below. I'm going to draw a little bit of some dirt under here. And let's see, I'm going to put some kale, and let's do some kale and some spinach for my leaves. And I'm going to bring that to the front so we can put it there. So you can put together your own plant using vegetables in your house. And again, once you play with it, as long as you eat them, how cool is that? And now you just created your own made up plant out of things that you already had. And I don't think even adults don't always think that vegetables are different parts of plants and they have that different purpose. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this same experiment and any of the 3M experiments. You can change it to fit what you have at home, what you want to learn about, what you want to do on a Wednesday night. There's a lot of different changes and adaptations that you can do. If you have any questions, feel free to keep putting them in the chat as we're going. I just have a couple extra things, and I'll send that along. So for anybody who's thinking of it like, oh, well, how much do we know about plants or need to know? These are all the different topics that are taught in schools already in K through 2. We have that in blue, the 3 through 5, our middle school, our high school. All of these topics are taught, and all of these topics have to do with plants. And many of them are really on these kind of social, good, problem solving topics that we need, like humans' impact on Earth and making sure that we reduce that impact on Earth, making sure that we can maintain biodiversity of different areas and keeping everything, sustainable and keeping everything healthy and thriving. So all of these topics are taught in school in different ways. So this can be adapted for any grade level, for any age of your students. It's going to be important to learn these topics. I tried to fit as many careers about plants as I could, but I couldn't put any more Post-it notes. This was just some of the careers that work with plants. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this was so cool. I love plants. I've always had a green thumb. I've always loved nature. Look at all the different possibilities. And this is only some of the possibilities of careers that work with plants. So if you get really excited while you do your dissection, check it out. Maybe do some research and look up some other things, do some other activities with your family and see all the different ways that maybe you can bring that passion, into your future when you grow up. So thank you so much. Again, my name is Jennifer Babcock. I'm so excited to have shared this with you. I hope you all have fun with it. I hope to hear from you about how you did this experiment. So feel free to reach out to me at any time. And thank you so much for sharing some of your time tonight with me.
So Jennifer, I must admit, I was this many years old before I realized that the cauliflower was actually the flower. That I was eating. So, love the connection back to Gitanjali's talk earlier about the need to be observant, and to part of problem solving is just being passionate and good observers about your environment and the world around you. So I really appreciate those tie-ins that you were making and that Coach Robin was making as well. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michelle.
Great. And I saw that Kelly had a question about how to access some of these materials. We're going to be putting a link here in the chat that can get you access to some of those 3M resources so that you can have access to them at your leisure and at home. So I really appreciate the questions that were coming in, as well as everyone's participation. Just want to thank everybody tonight who was involved in our NMSI 3M Family STEM Adventure, with special gratitude to 3M for sponsoring our adventure, Gitanjali, Robin, and Jennifer for leading our activities tonight, and for all of you out there who are exactly the science type. As an additional thank you, we'll be giving Gitanjali's book away to some lucky participants. And if you would like to complete a survey to help us know what went well tonight, what kind of topics and activities you'd like to see in the future, we would really appreciate it. So as a final thought, remember that our world needs innovators and scientists to solve some of the biggest challenges we face now, and some of those challenges we don't even know exist at this moment. So we know these solutions are going to come from students just like you. Thanks again, and we'll see you at our next STEM adventure.